Welcome. I'm happy to start this new charter school application orientation webinar from the Charter School Commission. If you are on and receiving this and you are able to hear, please just confirm in the chat box to the right of your screen that you can actually hear the webinar as I start. So my name is Kathy Fromey. I am the Director of New School Applications, and I'm happy to share this next hour with you. The purpose of this orientation is to provide prospective applicants with an initial overview of the application process, as well as the major sections of the application. This is only a 60-minute webinar, and it is basically a large-scale overview for more detailed information about the new charter school application. The Commission is offering 4 in-person, day-long trainings. Those trainings are listed in the application timeline, but they are scheduled for tomorrow, December 15th, here in Olympia at the Commission office, as well January 3rd in Yakima, January 5th in Seattle, and January 11th in Vancouver. For more specific information, you can certainly go to our website and find the date and times, locations. So all questions are welcome. At this point in time, I ask that you please just enter into the chat room when you have a question, and I will try to answer it as we go along on the webinar, and as time allows, answer any other questions at the end of the webinar. Just get started. If we run out of time and I'm unable to answer your questions while on the webinar, I will, the Commission will put those questions together, and then we'll post them on the Commission website, again, under the section for plan and apply for new school applications. So thanks again for being here. Let's get started. This webinar, oops, hang on a second, we have our first glitch. There we go. This webinar will cover a number of items. One, I'll just talk about the Commission briefly, give you a little bit of information about how we operate the charter bargain and the new school application process. I'll go over the timeline and how you can access that information, the evaluation process overview, the application content and expectations, and then again, as time allows, we'll do questions and answers. So this new charter school application is for schools opening in the 2018-2019 school year. About the Commission, many of you may be aware or not, but the Commission was established in 2013 as the Washington State Charter School Commission. It's the state's only non-district and statewide charter authorizer, and we're governed by an 11-member board. Each of our commissioners serves for 4 years. The Commission is led by the Executive Director, Joshua Halsey, and guided by the Commission's strategic plan. And our staff is specifically tasked with the authorization, that is this process, the new school application process. The Commission staff is tasked with the authorization and oversight of charter schools in Washington. Commission staff lead this specific charter school application process and the authorization approval process, and we provide support to Washington State charter schools. Currently, the Commission has authorized 9 charter schools across Washington State. 6 of those schools are in operation, and 3 will be opening next year at the start of the 2017-18 school year. The mission of the Commission is to authorize high-quality public charter schools and provide effective oversight and transparent accountability to improve educational outcomes for at-risk students. Our values are being student-centered, culturally and community responsive, provide excellence and continuous learning, accountability and responsibility, transparency and innovation. The vision of the Charter School Commission is to foster innovation and ensure excellence so that every student has access to and thrives in a high-quality public charter school. talk about the process and the charter bargain and the new school application process. The charter bargain is essentially how we operate. Schools have increased autonomy and increased school accountability, and those lead to improved student outcomes. Schools' autonomy and accountability, the commission is looking for improved student outcomes. The new school application process, the specific purpose of that application process is to improve the educational options available to children and families, approving only strong, demonstrably viable applications. And so we'll talk a little bit about what demonstrably viable applications looks like. Spend a little bit of time on the big picture of the application process. The application has a number of different stages. The first stage is the application release. And the new charter school application was released last week on December 6th. That is just about 2 months earlier than we usually release. The intent was to give people a little bit more potential applicants to engage in the actual writing process. The notice of intent, I'll go through the timeline, but notice of intent is the next step in the process where a potential applicant would actually complete the notice of intent form and submit it to the commission by February 17th. That notice of intent is non-binding, and that means that as an applicant, you are just informing the commission that you are fully intending to submit an application. And if you don't, you don't, but it just gives us a little bit of planning information so that we know how to schedule capacity interviews and public forums, also appropriate, get the appropriate number of evaluators. The application submission deadline is March 31st. It's earlier than has been in past years, but again, we are opening the application earlier as well. Applications are submitted. We have an evaluation team review, and I'll talk more about the evaluation team as we move on through the webinar. Each applicant then, after the applications are reviewed by the evaluators, goes through a capacity interview with the evaluation team and are required by law to engage in a public forum, and we'll go through that as well. The evaluation team then completes its final ratings and makes a recommendation to the commission. Commission staff write a final recommendation report and submit that for commission decision at the June 29th Charter Commission meeting. So that's the big picture overview. What that looks like in specifics, you'll find that on the application, pages 25 and 26, the timeline. The application is online on the Charter website, and you can find this exact timeline there. And it's the same thing that I pretty much just shared with you. You can see the orientation that are happening. The one that is not listed there is the one that happens tomorrow, December. Oh, actually, here it is, December 15th. So please take some time to read this application timeline, again, on pages 25 and 26 of the actual application. It has some essential, very important information you need to be aware of, most specifically the application due date, proposal due date on March 31st at 5 p.m. There will be no late submissions accepted. So please attend to this timeline. It's an important timeline. This review is essentially graphic of most of that timeline. Again, the release date was December 6th. On February 17th, the notice of intent must be submitted to the commission. March 31st is the application deadline. And by April 6th, the commission will have completed its completeness review. Look at all applications to see if, in fact, all component parts of the application have been submitted, all of the sections. You have the appropriate assurances, templates, attachments, and are all documents signed. If it is complete, then the application goes to the review process. If your application is incomplete, your application is terminated at that point. This is an important point to note that in past, the commission has done a completeness review and allowed applicants a 24-hour time period to change necessary changes and or add incomplete information. That is no longer the case. Applications are due on March 31st at 5 p.m. Incomplete. Once that completeness review happens, the application will not go forward in the review process. That is an important change. The review process happens largely through the month of April. The evaluators will be reviewing and rating the applications. In May, early May, we have the capacity interviews, and I'll speak to each of these as we go on, and then the public forums late May and early June. The evaluation recommendation reports will be released on June 16th, and then again, as noted earlier, the final commission will make its determinations on June 29th. And applications will either be approved, conditionally approved, or denied. This is an important part, this next part of the webinar, where we'll actually go through all of the requirements of the So a little bit different this year as well. We will be using the box file for uploading your application. For now, you can do your entire application in Word and develop your attachments in Word and save as PDFs. Once we receive your notice of intent that you are intending to apply, we will provide you with a specifically assigned box file where you can upload and work with your application throughout the planning process in the next couple of months. And then we will close that box on March 31st at 5 o'clock. Late or improperly formatted submissions will not be accepted. Please use the template documents provided on the website and in the box file sections of the application. Must be followed. Those word limits are by section and in the application. Exceeding the stated word limits will not be evaluated and rated. So please know that. I just went through the mission, vision, and values earlier, but I want to really focus on the mission of the Charter School Commission is to authorize high-quality public charter schools, so that, and the vision, so that every student has access to and thrives in a high-quality public school. Charter schools are, in fact, public schools. So what's important in terms of this new school application is that the evaluation process is transparent and clear to potential applicants as to how the evaluators and the commission will determine what is potentially a high-quality public charter school. The evaluation process employed by the commission will be both transparent and rigorous, following key components, which I'll go through in this webinar. The new school application rubric, application and rubric, the evaluation team, the capacity interview, the public forum, the recommendations, and the commission decisions. Full day in-person trainings will go through each of these sections in much more depth. Today is just an overview of these sections. The new school application rubric is a document that is aligned very closely to the application that is currently on our website. The rubric is as well on the website, and the rubric has a specific purpose. Applicants should reference the rubric continually when preparing their proposal to serve as a guide to ensure all required elements have been addressed, as well as provide qualitative instruction about the standards for evaluation. Important to know is that the evaluators will follow the rubric when reading and scoring your application. Please pay close attention to that rubric. The ratings that the evaluators will use, and they are indicated on the rubric for each of the sections that they will score and rate, are seeds. Rating of exceeds has an application that is thorough for each section, compelling, sophisticated understanding of the concept. So your responses would need to show that you have a sophisticated and above and beyond understanding of the concept. A meets rating has a response that is clear and complete response to all aspects of that section, and the applicant demonstrates capacity. That the response is partial, there are insufficient details, only demonstrates some capacity for that section. Does not mean it is that the response provides little or no evidence of capacity and or understanding of what the section is asking for. Each of the sections and each of the components in the sections are rated on with these ratings, and then there is a final rating of exceeds, meets, and partially meets. The evaluation teams. In the past and for this next application cycle, the evaluation teams are comprised of internal, that is commission staff, and external members. The evaluation team has members from Washington State and members from across the country, a strong content knowledge of the different elements of the application. So we're looking for we have evaluators who have strong expertise in education, finance, organization and operations, governance, and charter authorizing practices. All evaluators will be trained. Most of them are returning, but they'll be trained again and oriented to ensure a consistent application of the evaluation standards, again, looking to the rubric for that. All evaluators are also screened for potential conflicts of interest. What happens once you submit your final application on March 31st is that the evaluators will complete an individual review and scoring. Once they've completed that process, we'll have evaluation team panel calls where we look for consistency and reliability across the board in terms of how evaluators have rated. Then the next steps is we conduct the capacity interviews, which I'll speak to in a moment, and the evaluators are also part of the capacity interviews. Once the capacity interviews have been completed, evaluators provide their final ratings and submit them. Then we go forth to the public forums, and finally then the recommendation report is made to the commission. As a part of the evaluation process, there is a due diligence process as well. There are a few specific guidelines for due diligence, but mainly it's employed to verify assertions made in the application. So examples of due diligence are that we have an outside entity verifying the background of the applicant team and board members. That outside entity also does research and verifies track records of other schools or entities with which applicants have been involved or managed. So for instance, a CMO, a charter management organization, may be applying to open another school. Due diligence will research and verify past efforts of and successes of other schools that applicant has opened. As well, due diligence does research and verifies partnerships disclosed in the application. Your application, you will sign assurances that everything provided in your application is truthful and in actuality what is happening. So due diligence just confirms that. Another of the component steps of the evaluation process is, as was noted earlier, a capacity interview process. So again, once the applications have had an initial evaluation and panel calls, there will be an opportunity for the evaluators to ask clarifying questions about the application. And that happens in this capacity interview. Capacity interview also allows the evaluation team to probe or pressure check specific components of the application. The capacity interview also allows the authorizer the ability to assess the capacity of the founding team to implement the program proposed in the application. So an important part is of this is to actually see the founding team and or implementation team in action and truly to give the evaluators an opportunity to um, watch watch the proposed applicant team in action and clarify questions with regard to actual application. That usually is anywhere from 2 to 2.5 hour process. Again, in the timeline, the dates are provided. They are early May for the capacity interviews. You'll be given more specific information as to date and location as we get closer to that process happening. So who attends the capacity interview? Well, members of the evaluation team led by the team lead. Then the applicant teams will be given clear guidance as to who should attend, though we recommend your founding board members, your community members, parents, and or school leadership. And the interview group, your team, should be diverse enough to answer a wide range of questions, but small enough for meaningful conversation. And again, as we get closer to that, you'll be provided more information and the commission will be in touch with you. Again, some of the logistics, the when, the where, and the who of the interview schedule. Oops, let me go back one. When, early May, again, noted in your timeline, May 8th, possibly the 3rd and the 11th, if we have a number of applicants and we need to extend that. Where the capacity interviews take place at the Puget Sound Educational Service District in Renton. That information is specifically provided in the application. And who I just mentioned, the part of that, who on your team should be there. The full-length in-person trainings that are starting tomorrow, the 15th, will provide more of the interview structure, what to expect, and some more detail on that. Unfortunately, time doesn't allow us to go into that right now. Also required by law is a public forum. And the public forum is designed to solicit public input from parents, families, and communities. Public forums are conducted after the capacity interview and before the final recommendation reports are submitted. The commission will work closely with you with defining location and place. And again, we'll give more specifics as to the requirements of that. The applicant is required to attend the public forums. Again, per the timeline, those forums are currently scheduled for May 30th, 31st, and June 1st, and as needed, depending on the number of applications, June 6th, 8th. Once the public forums are complete, the analysis of the application strengths and concerns are written up in recommendation reports, which are submitted to the commissioners. It's very important to note that the evaluation process is not a decision. The evaluation team makes recommendations and provides an analysis of strengths and concerns about specific applicants and applications. The evaluation is not a decision. It is also not a preference for one quality application over another. Each application is evaluated on its own merits and the responses that you, the applicant, has provided for each of the sections. So let's start going through the key components of the actual application. Again, this is available on the commission website. There are a number of categories or sections, general categories to complete with subsections. These general information, executive summary, educational program design and capacity, operations plan and capacity, financial plan and management capacity, existing operators, which are CMOs or any network replication, and a new section, the optional federal charter school grant planning and implementation grant, which I'll go through here. So general information. This is a template that is currently on the website. It is called the cover sheet. And in this section, you, the potential applicant, would provide the following information on the designated templates. Your school's information, it'll ask for location if you have that, the type of school, the grade served, primary contact person information, enrollment projections, that'll be a 5-year enrollment projection, and that will be by grades. Again, it's a template, so simply fill in the template and you should have the information covered. It also requires the current board members and prospective board members. Sometimes a new charter school will have board members who are founding board members, and then additional board members once the school gets going. And information on your startup team. Again, this is a required template that is available on the website. Category 2 is the executive summary. And in this section, the subsection is section 1, the applicant needs to provide the following information. The educational need for your charter school, the anticipated student population, and the challenges that they currently face. The geographic location of the proposed charter school, your overall plan, mission, vision, objectives, and goals. And if you are requesting for additional planning year, if that's applicable, the request and justification for why. This is a good place to stop and speak to attachments. On pages, I believe, 21 through 23 in the application, there is a list of all of the attachments that are required for each of the sections. Pay close attention to those attachments and ensure that they are in fact appropriately labeled and attached. Also an important time to note as we start to go through the actual application sections, what you write in your application is very important. We're looking for, again, high quality charter schools, and your objectives and goals and mission and vision should be realistic yet rigorous. What you write in your application, you will be held to in terms of accountability. Your application becomes an actual attachment to your charter contract. So what you write in there, you will be held to in terms of what you will be doing. So it's very important to be clear with yourself and with the application, what you are planning to do and how you propose to do that. Category 3 is the educational program design and capacity. So again, first we get your general information, then an executive summary, the big picture of, your mission, vision, and values, and what you propose to do and the students you propose to serve. Then we get to now the actual educational program. You'll see that the application is, the sections are now divided in the 3 main areas that the commission will be also holding you accountable for: your educational program, your operations, and then your finance. So the educational program section should provide a complete description of the school's educational philosophy and methodologies. It should also include information about how the school will assess the success of its program. It has 11 component sections, and they are the program overview with the essential program terms. Please pay specific attention to the essential program terms when you complete your application. You'll need to provide a curriculum and instructional design, student performance standards. If you're a high school, graduation requirements. Each application should have a school calendar and schedule, a section on school culture, any supplemental programming that you'll be providing. Section 9 speaks specifically to special populations and at-risk students. Section 10 is the student recruitment and enrollment. There are new enrollment in the new legislation that was passed in March of this year. Weighted enrollment is now part of uh, the application process. Section 11 speaks to student discipline policy and your plan, your discipline plan. And Section 12 to family and community involvement. Again, we don't have time in a 1-hour webinar to go through all of these sections. We will go through them in depth in each of the in-person full-day trainings and speak to all of the component parts and answer any questions you may have about those component parts. In general, for the educational program design and capacity, at a minimum, quality response would address the following, but not to be limited to a description of your curriculum and instructional strategies that align with the mission, the target population, and state standards. So as we start to go through this, you'll hear that word alignment, where we're looking for different sections of your application to align with other sections. Explain the evidence base for your plan and your application. Articulate a sound rationale for your selection of your curriculum and instructional strategies. A high quality response will include plans and strategies for meeting all student needs, including accelerated remediation, special education, and services for English language learners. High quality response will demonstrate internal alignment across all sections. For instance, the schedule and the calendar, staffing, and budget are all aligned. Include a sound plan for family engagement, continuous family engagement. Describe a school culture that's aligned to the school's mission and goals. Articulate a robust student assessment plan, including a range of summative, formative, and formal or informal assessment, which is especially important for elementary schools that will be having kindergarten, first, and second grade students who do not access the state assessment, which is part of the accountability for all schools. Describe shared beliefs, customs, or behaviors for students, teachers, and staff. Anticipate staffing and professional development needs and align with the proposed budget. Again, whatever you say in your application must align with your budget and show that you are able to provide the services and educational programs that you are proposing. Evaluator critical questions they're looking for are the choices for curriculum instruction supported by evidence, research-based evidence? Is there someone who will be responsible for developing and executing the educational plan? Are the goals and expectations ambitious and realistic? Again, what you write in your application will become what you will be held accountable for. Your application is a part of your charter contract. Does the applicant have sound plans for serving at-risk students and students with special needs? Are the education plan priorities and needs accounted for adequately in the budget? Category 4 is the section that speaks to operations, plans, and capacity. So we just covered the educational or the academic part of accountability. This section speaks to operations. The operations plans provides for information about the school's legal status, the governance structure, and other plans for how the school plans to open successfully on day one and maintain stability and growth over the terms of the charter contract. This section, this category has a number of sections, which I will go through here in a moment. Basically, legal status and governing documents, the organizational structure, including organization charts and partnerships, information on your governing board, any advisory bodies, the school's grievance and complaint process, district partnerships. District partnerships, we are looking to determine how much the potential applicant has connected with the district in which the charter school will reside, and the extent to which any potential partnerships have been established. Section 20 is the educational service providers and other partnerships. Section 21 speaks to staffing plans, hiring, management, and evaluation of employees. Section 22 is how the school proposes to provide professional development to its staff. Section 23 is specifically on the performance framework. I would recommend that any potential applicant take a look at the performance frameworks that are currently on the commission website. There are three frameworks: the academic framework, the operational framework, and the financial framework. Those frameworks provide the indicators and the targets which schools are held accountable for, and which the commission uses to ensure that you are successful in your academic, operational, and financial endeavors. Those performance frameworks are important to schools' evaluation and continued success and renewal. Please take some time to look at the performance frameworks on the commission website. Section 24 is about facilities. What is the applicant's experience and capacity in facilities acquisition and management? Are you understanding all that's required, not only in actually the facility management and having students in your school, safety and occupancy rules and regulations as well. Section 25 is your startup and ongoing operations, and Section 26 is operations capacity. So again, this section really speaks to an applicant's knowledge and expertise in actually the physical components of the school. A strong response in this section would include, but not be limited to, a sound and reasonable plan for staffing that is likely to attract and retain top talent, a thorough and reasonable plan for a startup, compelling detail on the school's plan for performance management, an organizational chart aligned with the leadership and staffing structure, a viable plan for developing employment policies, proper legal structure, and articulating clear roles and appropriate responsibility for governance and management, and identifying the founding board members with diverse skills needed to govern effectively. Critical questions that the evaluators are asking is, does the applicant have the experience with non-academic operations? So you may have a very, very strong educational program design, and in this section, not demonstrate your ability and capacity for facilities operations, and that would that would be a weakness that you would not want. So this is an important section. Also, critical questions. Another critical question is, are the anticipated operation costs reflected appropriately in the budget? That you're going to have strong science labs for hands-on science. You have appropriately indicated in your budget the costs for that. Or if you've got specific educational programs that require more staff, more one-on-one with students, does your budget indicate that, reflect that increased staffing? Are the budget assumptions realistic and verifiable? Does the board composition include expertise and experience necessary to ensure success and sustainability? Category 5 speaks to the financial plan and capacity. The financial plan section should provide information that allows the authorizer to assess the fiscal viability of a school. It will demonstrate not only a balanced budget, but a financial management plan that will support the mission and programming of the school. The relevant sections in the financial plan are Section 27, the actual financial plan, and then financial plan capacity. High quality responses in this section will have a realistic budget, realistic budget projections with clear assumptions, starting with the startup through full enrollment. Spending priorities that align with the school's mission, educational program management, structure, professional development needs, and growth plan. Again, we're looking for an alignment. Did what you say you were going to do in the educational program design and how you would staff align in your budget? Have you indicated that you have all of those costs covered? Is your realistic cash flow and your projections aligned with the overall budget? Is your startup plan and budget with reasonable revenue and cost assumptions? Uh, there must be a long-term fundraising plan. We know that charter schools do receive allocations from the superintendent of public instruction per pupil allocations. Most schools, as they start, that is not enough to sustain the school, so we look for a long-term fundraising plan. Does the school have sound financial controls to ensure the proper use of public funds and long-term viability and a demonstrated financial planning and management capacity uh, are critical to a high-quality public charter school. Critical questions that evaluators are asking is, does the budget accurately reflect the available funding sources? Does the budget include all the major cost centers associated with the operation of a charter school? Food services, transportation, as well as the educational program design and facilities operations. Does the budget reflect going market rates for staff salaries, for interorganizational services and fees and facilities? Category 6 is for existing operators. And so this is as an applicable section. The existing operator section should provide information that allows the authorizer, the charter school commission in this case, to assess the applicants who already operate one or more schools, including charter management organizations. This is only for those entities who are already operating one or more schools. As one section, and that section is with existing operators. And again, this is back to due diligence. This section will be at this an applicant who is an existing operator will have due diligence checked on all of its other open schools. Very new to this application process and for the state of Washington is Category 7. To share that the state superintendent the state superintendent of public instruction has received for the first time ever a competitive federal state charter school program grant. This section 30 provides an opportunity for schools to apply for these federal programs. So very important to note is that this section is optional. Completion or non-completion does not impact an applicant's approval rating. This is simply an efficiency. In order to receive a federal planning and implementation subgrant from the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction, a school must first be an approved charter school. So you're submitting this application to the commission so that you can be an approved charter school. This section, this Category 7, Section 30, is simply an efficiency so that the applicant only completes one application. If you get approved as a charter school, you've completed most of the application for potential planning and implementation grant funds. By the commission, your application, this section 30, the optional federal school program planning and implementation grant section, full action-oriented and realistic goals, and your budget related to OSPI, who administers the federal program grant, and you would work with them to receive upwards of $200,000 for your planning year, to assist in your planning year, and years 2 and 3 of your actual school implementation, up to $585,000 in federal funds to support your initial implementation. Again, this is an efficiency. It is a requirement of the federal grant that you uh, are an approved charter school before accessing these federal funds. So what we've done is collaborated closely with SPI so that this application is in essence your application to SPI for those federal funds. This section 30 is asking you specifically to provide measurable and action-oriented goals for the use of those federal funds and a budget for the use of those federal funds. So this is a separate budget than the actual charter school budget. More details on this will be provided in the day-long training. It is a wonderful new opportunity for charter schools in the state of Washington to access planning and implementation funds to assist with the startup of your charter school. Again, it does not impact the overall rating or scoring of your application as a whole. So if you don't apply, you have to go through a whole entire separate application process with SPI. So now we're moving on to some question and answer. I've not seen any questions come through to me in the chat period, so I think that everything is pretty clear at this point in time. Let me share some resources and some other information to a couple of other things. Extra resources, please make sure you visit our website, the Commission's website at charterschool.wad.gov. There are 3 component parts to that website. The first one is planning and applying, and you want to click on that section. And you'll find application updates. At this point in time, you will find the application, the new charter school application for schools that are planning to open in the 2018 school year, the application rubric, the notice of intent to apply, templates that are required, the OSPI per pupil allocation that is your public funding allocation, all of the necessary documents that you need to for submitting a complete new school charter application. So the application materials are there, as well as an application archive that has in that archive applications from the 2013, 2014, and 2015 school year. Names have been redacted, but you could generally see applications that have been approved and not approved on that website as examples of what rigorous applications look like. Last year, we used the Charter Tool online submission process. We are looking to eventually have an iGrant submission process through OSPI, though that is not yet in effect. So this year, the online application process, access and submission process is through Box. Once again, when the Commission receives your notice of intent to apply on February 17th, you will be assigned a specific box specific to your application team, where you will upload your application attachments in PDF form and all the required Commission templates. They will be available in Box. They are currently available on the website. So you should be working in Word and developing your narrative and attachments even as we speak. One other bit of resource to share with you is that as you go into the Charter website and look at past processes, there are a few things that have changed this year based on the March 10th charter school bill that was passed in the legislature. And I just want to bring those to your attention. Obviously, we have a new timeline. It is a new application. Generally, this application is identical pretty much to the 2015 application process. Timelines have changed, as well as specific areas related to the new law. The application is no longer an RFP process, it's a solicitation application process. Again, another change is applicants will no longer have a 24-hour period in which to change or complete missing application sections. Once submitted on March 31st, that is the last opportunity an applicant will have to make any changes to their application prior to that 5 o'clock March 31st submission deadline. Again, as noted, we have an earlier release this year. We released the application on December 6th, just last week. In the past, that release was February 10th, so we're almost 2 months earlier on the release. And the application is due earlier as well, March 31st. In the past, it was due in mid-May. And in fact, the new application cycle allows, I think, upwards of some 20, 21 extra days on the application. So there is more time in this application process than in prior. Section 10 speaks to the new weighted enrollment preference. In the past, there was an opportunity for conversion schools that was taken out in the new legislation. There are no longer, a conversion option is no longer available for charter applicants, and it requires a plan for fundraising. And as well, this new application has the optional federal charter school program sub-grant section. So be aware that there are some changes. Largely, the application is the same, but there are, in fact, some changes to be aware of. Lastly, pay attention to the timeline in the actual application on pages 25 and 26. And on pages 21 to 23, the application attachments. And specifically, we highly encourage you to attend one of the full-day in-person training sessions that goes into much more depth on each of the categories and sections, and has an opportunity for you to ask questions and dialogue with commission staff as to the requirements and what really a high-quality new charter school application looks like. And I am not seeing any messages in the chat room or questions at this point in time. I have 10:53. Few minutes early. I'll just stop talking just for about a minute or so and allow you some time to submit questions. And if any come up, I'll respond to those. If not, I'll go ahead and close the webinar about 5 minutes early. So, and we encourage and look forward to seeing you in person at some of the in-person trainings. And please don't hesitate in the meantime to call with questions or concerns, and we will do our best to facilitate your application process. I'll give you a little time to submit questions if you have any. All right, I'm not seeing any further questions, so I would once again thank you for your time and interest in public charter schools in the state of Washington. We look forward to meeting you in person at some of the in-person training sessions. Please don't hesitate to call or email with questions and or concerns. Uh, Sandy Green, our applications coordinator, will try to respond to those questions and or forward them on to me. Thanks so much, and we look forward to our future collaborations with you. Be well.